person who's in psychic disharmony is walking around as if not noticing the vibrancy and the gift the world is here to offer. So a beautiful analysis of Jewish traditions, very deep healing cosmology and understanding of the flow and lack thereof and the psychosomatic representations of that, which is according to the Bible, is particularly in the skin.
אלוהי, נשמה שנתת בי, טהורה.
Welcome to this Earth Day, 50th anniversary of Earth Day, April 22nd, special day, apropos 22nd, the 22 letters of the Torah. So we're celebrating, I guess the day is special in a number of ways. And we are in the Parasha, in Parasha Tazria Metzora. We're reading about the laws regarding skin diseases from biblical time, which were considered spiritually sourced or spiritually triggered disease, which is in and of itself very interesting. And we're going to, after we look at the Slonimer, we'll apply that to what we're dealing now with COVID-19, living under the COVID cloud, I like to call it now. So, okay, let's jump in. For those of you who have the Netivot Shalom at home and want to follow, we are in the book of Vayikra, the book of Leviticus, and we're on page Nun Bet, Inyan HaNegaim. Let's jump right in. בפרשיות אלו, תזריע ומצורע, העריכה התורה בעניין תורת המצורע וקורבנותיו. In these parshas of this week, the Torah deals at length with the rules, instructions around what typically is translated as the leper, but it's really not the classical leper as we medically define a leper today, but it's a variety of skin diseases, diseases that compromise the skin in a variety of ways. And the Torah goes through real elaborate diagnostic descriptions of what those skin eruptions and diseases look like by color, by texture, by depth of impact on the skin, etc. We thus assume that the Torah is coming to teach us something that has value for any time and in any conditions. And obviously that's what we're out to investigate today, and in particular to see if it has any wisdom that is useful for living under the COVID-19 cloud. ומכל עניין תורת המצורע שמצינו בתורה עולה כי צרת היא המחלה הגרועה ביותר. And from everything that we read in the Torah, we find that the skin diseases are the worst diseases of all. Okay, so the Slonimer here is setting the stage for us. Let's keep going. ובחז"ל, על זין חטאים באים הנגעים. And the sages in the Gemara in Archin Tet Zayin, they tell us that these skin diseases are caused by a number of reasons. One is gasut ruach, coarse spirit, ugly spirit is gasut ruach. The opposite of refined spirit. So if somebody is in sort of like what we call toxic energy, you can see with my face expression, it's coarse, dense, brute, etc. So that's one source for skin disease. Another source is killing. Another is gilui ariyot, so imbalanced sexuality. And lashon hara, gossip, which again is coarse spirit, killing, sexual imbalance, and gossip. So from here we learn, says the Slonimer, that even though the symptoms are physical, are in the body, they are not a mere physical disease. Which shows us that that any disease of the skin is really connected to impurities of the spirit. The reason then that in the Torah, when somebody has a skin disease, they go to the priest at the temple is because, by the way, people confuse priest as Catholic priest, So the Catholic Church call their clergy priest as an extension of that biblical, status of the priest in the temple in the Bible. I would say that the priest, in biblical days, was like the shaman in the natural healer or the spirit healer in indigenous tribes, Native Americans, Africans. A lot of people now from North America go down to Peru, to the Amazon, to meet with shamans in that tradition. So those are people who heal through addressing the spiritual condition that's behind, at the foundation of a person's condition. So the priest of yore in the Bible would have been that shaman. It's probably for other diseases, let's say the common cold, or maybe a tummy ache, or headaches, or fevers, or whatever the common maladies that people would have. Who would they go to? The Torah doesn't tell us in particular, but I would guess that the health system of that time were the mothers and the grandmothers, right, who would apply the herbal remedies that are available, in the wild, right? But for skin disease, it wasn't enough to go to your normal healthcare system in the the village, or in the community, the tribe, but you need to go to the priest, because there's, according to the Bible, we're learning that was considered a disease that's reflecting deeper psycho-spiritual causes. Thus, you need the shaman or the priest. והנה אונקולוס תרגם נגע צרעת מכתש סגירו, היינו שהיא מחלה של סגירות. Now listen to this. So Onkelos translated, this is the first time that the entire Torah is translated and interpreted in the Aramaic, and we learn about how people understood the Hebrew at that time. So Onkelos translated the word nega tzaraat, which in English we sometimes translate as the affliction of leprosy, in the very general sense, as I said. He translated machtesh segiu, which means hainu shi machala shel sgiut, which means in Aramaic a cavity of closeness. It's interesting. A cavity in the skin. There's an eruption of the skin. That means it's a cavity. The skin is shedding its exto layer. So there's a cavity. There's an indent in the skin. And he translates this cavity of closeness, which from here we learn that this was a disease of closeness, of something being closed or blocked. So the question is, blocked what? What is blocked? So the Slonimer continues, היינו שנעולים בפניו כל שערי האורה, וסגרו בפניו כל הטוב העליון. That means that a person is, for that person, all the gates of light, meaning spiritual light, are blocked. And the eternal flow is closed to him or her. And thus the person is taken to the priest. Obviously, there's an assumption of a flow, right, of a spiritual flow, a divine flow that that allows light to enter into the system, and I would say light as energy, as blessing, right? That life energy, life force. From for the Chinese or the Eastern medicine point of view, it's the qi, right? The qi, without getting into the details, it's the difference between chiyut, life force in the Jewish healing tradition, in the qi in the Chinese healing tradition. If you're adept in those, so you can argue with me, but just to keep it simple and for the sake of discussion right now, it's like qi. So imagine the flow of emotional, spiritual, mental energy through the system that keeps us healthy and keeps us vibrant. That is blocked. And how does it express itself according to the Torah? Through the skin. The words of the Torah go like this: Adam ki yeh be'or b'saro se'at o sapachat o baheret. A person who has on the skin of his flesh a growth or a rash or a cavity, and that person is brought to the priest at the temple, or l'chad mibanav, or to one of his sons, and the priest, whichever priest it is, will examine the skin disruption, and the sight, and behold, the sight of it is deep. In other words, it's recessed below the skin's normal surface. Me'or b'saro negatzoratu. And when that's what the priest sees, the diagnostic is that this is negatzarat. This is leprosy. And it's interpreted in the in the rabbinic commentary. So it's saying, what does it mean that what the priest is looking for is a disruption that goes deeper than the surface, literally, but what does it mean figuratively? He says that this symptomatology is not only superficial it's not at the skin level. It's not only a skin condition, it's deeper than the skin. It means that the disease is inner, it's interior, meaning in the psyche, in a very deep way. אם זוהי מחלה גופנית פשוטה, כפי שלכאורה נראית הצרת, מחלת עור רגילה, the priest is the one who's qualified and skilled in diagnosing and ascertaining whether this is just a simple physical disease, as one would think a skin disease may be, or that the site of this disease is deeper than the skin, which is an expression for a person's psychospiritual breakdown. And then a person is considered in the status of what we call impurity, or we could say tum'ah would be psychospiritual disharmony. So it's a very interesting distinction, and I think it's going to be very useful for us to apply this in a moment to how COVID works. It is my understanding at this point, after many years of both treating myself holistically and studying holistic approaches to pathology and to disease, is that really most diseases are rooted in some kind of psychic disharmony. And we have a term for that, actually. In modern medicine, we call that psychosomatic diseases. So psycho meaning they're sourced in the psychology or in the spirituality of a person, and they're somatic, they are expressed in the soma, in the body. That's what psychosomatic means. So modern medicine knows that too. When I was a social work student and an intern in an outpatient psychiatric clinic in Rambam, the Rambam Hospital in Haifa. So we would get a lot of referrals from cardiology. So people would come in with heart symptoms. They'd get checked for all the physical indicators for heart disease, and while the person had shortness of breath, had heart palpitations, had shooting pains into the left arm, heavy chest, whatever the symptomatology is, and they would come into rush into the hospital with what looks like a heart attack, and they would be checked. They'd get the whole protocol of checkup in cardiology, and everything would be normal. So they would send us to psychiatry. And, I often would work as a social worker. I would interview those patients and offer them, counseling and therapy, listening, etc. Psychiatrists would examine them, and, they went through the whole process through psychiatry. That's a whole story in and of itself. I'll discuss psychiatry another time. And I'm not sure we're always effective. But the point is that we know what psychosomatic disease is in modern medicine. They knew it back then in the Bible. And the idea is, as the Slonimer is pointing out, is that skin diseases at that time were considered particularly quick indicator for some psychic disharmony. I think that all diseases in COVID has that layer as well. By the way, I'm not putting down the physical layer, and that's also an important level of treatment. But if we only treat physically, are we really treating the source of the disease? So let's go a little bit more with the Slonimer. ותוצאות המחלה הזאת של נגע צרעת הם מכתש צגיעות. And the result of this kind of psychosomatic disease is the affliction of tzara'at. I'm not going to use the word leprosy anymore, even though that's how it's translated in the King James Bible and in modern translations, but not a good translation. Let's just call it tzara'at in the Hebrew, which means extreme skin disease. which is the cavity of blockage. That is the disease that is rooted in blockages and psychospiritual blockages. As it says in the Zohar, everything is blocked and closed for this person. Kol sharei ora vetuva, all the gates of light and goodness. That is the disease of blockage, where I am cocooned. My soul is closed. Nothing is flowing in. Nothing is flowing out. Reminds you a little bit of sheltering in place, lockdown. Sometimes one can make the argument that a little bit of our response to COVID is counterintuitive because we're creating more stress. And again, I'm not saying that this is not important from a epidemiological point of view. We want to flatten the curve, but we need to look at the risks that isolation and lockdown can also cause and mitigate those. So it's a conversation that here and there, not a lot, but here and there, it's also discussed in the media. Depression, fear, stress, all those can make people more susceptible to the symptoms of COVID because of the vulnerability that it creates. Again, another discussion for another time. So let me continue here with the Slonimer. There are times when the soul is in lockdown, and in fact, we call that anxiety and depression. We know that in psychiatry. I've studied these things as a social work student with a concentration in psychiatry. And this person experiences life as if the total of one's existence from mikaf regel ad rosh, from the bottom of one's soul to the top of one's head, is completely locked up. And here the Slonimer goes into details. One's mind is closed down. One's heart is hardened, is closed down. One's feelings are muted, are muffled, are numb. There's a numbness of affect. The mind and the heart and the feelings of a Jew, of any person for that matter. I want to open up the Slonimer here to the world. For any person for that matter, needs to be awakened. There needs to be feeling, there needs to be flow, and especially the ability to absorb the feelings of sanctity, he says. So you see, we're not only talking psychology, we're talking psychospiritual. There needs to be a flow on all levels. There needs to be an appreciation of the world. There needs to be joy in little things, but there also needs to be the openness to wow, to wonder, to allowing the universe to reverberate with you, to juice you. Are you going to be walking out in the park, as we do a lot today, wrapped up in your stress, looking at the ground, or are you going to be walking in the park, allowing the images and the smells and the sounds come in and fill your batteries? That is the healthy option. But the person who's in psychic disharmony is walking around as if not noticing the vibrancy and the gift the world is here to offer. So a beautiful analysis of Jewish traditions, very deep healing cosmology and understanding of the flow and lack thereof and the psychosomatic representations of that, which is according to the Bible is particularly in the skin. And how does all that translate into living under the COVID cloud, living in lockdown, fearing, fearing of a flow, not of a positive flow, as I described before, but fearing the flow of a virus, flowing, transmitting. Transmission is also a flow, but it's a flow we do not want. Therefore, we have to lock down. And what in, and this opens opens for reflection here. I'm going to offer really questions more than answers. What is it in our conduct? Because the idea of a psychospiritual malady is very encouraging because there's something we can do about it. If we think of a disease as an attack by an external trigger or an external pathogen, what can we do, right? We've got to try to kill the pathogen if we can. We've got to try to we need to lock ourselves down. But if we see the part of disease that is psychospiritual, that means the causes are internal, and they can be shifted by change of attitude, change of lifestyle, change of conduct, change in relationships, change in, willful change in my openness or closedness to the positive healing resources around me, like nature, for instance. Nature, relationships, love, self-care, exercise, artistic expression, alignment with my purpose, alignment with my passions, tending to my real dreams, including more things in my life that feed me. There's so many ways that I can boost up my energetics, my chi, my chiyut, my life energy, in a way that makes me invulnerable, that makes me, that boosts up my immune system, that boosts up my physicality. The psychosomatic is not only disease, it's also healing, right? So if I boost up my psychospiritual innards, it comes out as strength of the body, of the biology. My skin is better. How people look better when they're happier. They look better when they're rested, right? You see it on the skin. You see it on the. It's something that exudes. It's something healthy about how a person appears. That's the skin. It's the appearance. It's the interface, right? That makes me much less likely to contract the supposed pathogens. I say supposed advisedly, but also intentionally, because the holistic view on the source of disease is much more complicated than just a germ or a virus hopping into your system and causing damage. There's more to it. And obviously a germ and a virus will not cause damage if the system is robust, and healthy and aligned with a spirit that's vibrant and flowing good energy through, right? So I think I'll leave it at that. I think it's a hopeful message, and for me, it's affirming years of really studying and exploring, not only theoretically. I've read a lot of books, but I also practice myself. For instance, my favorite holistic medicine discipline is homeopathy, which is an energetic remedy, and one needs to work on oneself. One needs to be connected with the kind of company that lifts you up rather than pulls you down. One needs to tend to intimate relations in the family, friends, my spouse, my lover, my children. What do we need to correct there? Is my work aligned with my deeper mission, with my dreams, with my passions? Do I have enough time to express my passions? All those things can contribute to health. I can't tell you how much I've proven that to myself. And it's my observation that that's true for others. So may we take this lesson from Torah today and be blessed with such. Let's structure our lockdown, which is very important right now. We need to flatten the curve, but that's not enough. How am I spending time as I am isolating? It's very important. May we be blessed to discover new ways and new heights of health and come out with a skin, a skin that much, much, much better than we had before COVID. Shalom for now.